Canton, Ohio, the most prestigious place in all of American pro football. Since 1920, when it hosted the founding of the National Football League, all the way up till 2024, where it once again will see a class of finalists be inducted into the prestigious Pro Football Hall of Fame. But perhaps the most prestigious tradition carried out on the grounds of the Hall of Fame Village isn't the Hall of Fame induction. Instead, maybe it's the annual Hall of Fame game, where each year two teams face off in what has become the first live-action game of any capacity for that upcoming season. Both teams play for the all-important stakes of a preseason win. In reality, this game is looked at as another meaningless preseason game. Many that think that it'll eventually be eliminated when the NFL inevitably expands to a 20-game season. But this tradition goes far back, further than what many of you would probably expect. Let's go all the way back to that first game. That was played on August 11th, 1962. Early in that day, ground was broke in the area that would officially become the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It was a joyous occasion, and to celebrate the new location where football greats would be honored for eternity, the New York Giants and St. Louis Cardinals took to Fawcett Stadium. It was the first ever Hall of Fame game, and whilst I could not find any statistics of the plays in the game, I did find the box score. The Giants came out strong, taking a 14-point lead in the first quarter. That lead would hold strong till the half, after both teams would score an even 7 points in the second quarter. The Cardinals came out strong and tied it up in the third, keeping it that way till the end of the fourth quarter. And if your math is correct, then you would realize the first Hall of Fame game ended in a tie, meaning the first winner wouldn't be decided until 1963 on September 8th. It was when the Browns and Steelers came into town, and Pittsburgh would win that game 16-7. Now, the early years of the game were televised on Sunday afternoons as part of ABC's Worldwide of Sports media package. The following game in 1964 had the Baltimore Colts lay a whopping 48 points on the defending Hall of Fame champions, the record for the most points by a single team scored in the history of the game, one that still stands tall today. It was also the highest scoring game in totality, with 65 total points scored between the two teams. From 1966 to 1970, the game was played consistently with only NFL teams. But by 1971, with the merger of the AFL and NFL, it was decided that every year the game would host an AFC team and an NFC team. It was also decided to no longer hold the game late in the preseason scrum. Instead, to open the preseason with the game, putting it in either late July or early August. Through the 70s, the game featured a plethora of teams playing. The NFC would win 6 of the 9, whilst the AFC would only win 3. 1980 would feature probably the harshest competition ever seen in the history of the game. On a Monday night, the Green Bay Packers and San Diego Chargers faced off. They dueled for over 2.5 hours, and in the end, they would put up a staggering 0 points. Nobody scored. Not a field goal, not a safety, not a touchdown. The only other tie game outside of the first game. And now, maybe you'll ask, well, was the weather bad? No. The field wasn't a mess either. The two teams just couldn't score. And to make it even more bizarre, the Chargers would go on that year with Dan Fouts at the helm to lead in total offensive yards and be 4th in scoring. Fouts would break his old passing yards record from the previous season by over 700 yards. And the Chargers would average over 20 points scored per game and go 11-5. The Packers would go on to have, well, the worst scoring offense in the league. I guess that makes sense, at least with this. But as the years marched on, the annual game continued to be played. By the time of the mid-1990s, the league decided to expand to 30 teams from 28. Added were the NFC Carolina Panthers and the AFC Jacksonville Jaguars, the first sanctioned on-field action either team would ever see would be in the Hall of Fame game. A contest that saw Carolina beat Jacksonville 20-14. From here on, every other expansion team would follow the same tradition. The new Cleveland Browns in 1999 played the Dallas Cowboys, where they had a historic moment occur. They went to overtime. An unprecedented occasion in the event. The Browns would eventually win the game with a 20-yard field goal, as the Jason Garrett-led Cowboys were unable to break the strong spirits of the new Cleveland Browns. Instead, the 2-14 season would do that instead. In 2000, the Hall of Fame game hosted a surprising young man. The Patriots played the San Francisco 49ers, and that means, of course, Tom Brady would step on the NFL field competitively for the first time. He'd play against his favorite team growing up, and little did anybody know, that young Michigan quarterback that was trying to translate into the NFL as a fourth-string quarterback will one day be in that very building that sits right next to the stadium. Moving on to 2002 was when the last expansion team came to the NFL. The 2002 Houston Texans took on the New York Giants, and they were slaughtered 34-17. This was the last time the Texans played in the game, until tomorrow night when they face the Chicago Bears. The Bears have a unique history in the game, having 5 total appearances, and perhaps their most notable being in 2005, when they took on the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins would take a 24-13 lead by midpoint of the fourth quarter. A Kyle Orton-led Bears charged down the field, and Orton would end the drive with a 43-yard bomb into the end zone. The Dolphins would attempt to fire back, but they would miss a 34-yard field goal. The Bears drove back down the field again and scored late. They got the lead thanks to a rushing touchdown by legend Zach Abram, a man who would never take an NFL snap in competitive play. Brock Berlin and the Dolphins got high on the saddle and pushed down to the Bears 15 with 51 seconds left. The strong Bears defense stiffened up, and Jarrell Pippins would intercept Berlin, ending the game. Whilst Orton established himself with the Bears in this game, here's Dan Marino throwing to Mark Clayton during the 2005 Hall of Fame speeches. Moving along, the next notable moment came in 2009, when for the first time since the NFL-AFL merger, 2 of the same conference teams played in the game. The Tennessee Titans and Buffalo Bills sparred off, in honor of the 50-year anniversary of the AFL, as both franchises were part of the original 8 to found the conference. Both teams would wear throwback jerseys, and the Titans in their old Oilers attire would play the Bills in their old uniforms. During that game, the most iconic play in the event's history occurred.
Here is A.J. Trapasso, who will do the punting, the regular punter, and you got a trick play here, and it is Trapasso who will carry the ball for a first down inside the 20 and all the way to the end zone for a touchdown. Goes 40 yards on a 4th and 10.
They're going to fake the reverse to Michael Griffin, the safety, the old Statue of Liberty looking play.
Trapasso's fake punt was legendary, something of incredible stature, something that wouldn't help him get cut 1 month later. It would make his career highlight reel as being the only play of his highlights, never seeing actual playing time on an NFL field outside of preseason. The Titans would go on to win 21-18, and in 2011, the first cancellation of the Hall of Fame game happened due to the league lockout. And since then, the league has ended the AFC-NFC tradition, primarily picking teams purely based off of if a former player is being inducted. One of the last big events that happened in the game's history came in 2016, when it was canceled for only the 2nd time. This was caused due to unplayable conditions. During the previous year in 2015, the field was reconfigured from turf over from the old grass. As the Packers and Colts began their preparation for the 2016 Hall of Fame game, the field was painted, but was done with incompatible paint with the new turf surface. It made it so the paint didn't dry, and it wasn't going to be by the time of the game. Impatient and wanting the game to go on, they started turning the heat up of the surface, which in turn made the rubber fill inside the turf melt together. This created an incredibly hard, slick surface, and trying to recover the already disastrous situation, and not to cancel the game, they began applying paint thinner to remove the logos. Soon a Packers official walked over and picked up one of the containers they were using, and read that it said the chemical would cause chemical burns if upon skin contact. He informed an NFL official, and 90 minutes before kickoff, the game was canceled, and the fans in the stadium would find out via social media. Quite frankly, one of the biggest disasters in NFL and Hall of Fame game history. The only other time the game has been canceled was in 2020 due to the plague. In the last 3 years, the game has gone on relatively fine. The teams to participate in the most events are the Pittsburgh Steelers and Dallas Cowboys, both participating in 7 games, the last one being in 2021, when they played each other. Neither one of them have the most wins, however. That goes to the Washington Commanders, who have a 5-0 record in the game. The Raiders also have a similar record at 4-0. And no other team is undefeated outside of the Panthers and Ravens, who have only ever played once together. The teams with the most losses is a 4-way tie, all of them having 4 losses. The Cowboys, Falcons, Dolphins, and Bills, with the Bills and Dolphins being the worst off at an 0-4 record, never winning the event. The Detroit Lions are the current team that have gone the longest without playing in the event. Not since 1991 have they played. The other 2 teams with long streaks are the Chargers, who haven't played since 94, and the Panthers since 95. And ironically, the Patriots haven't played a game since the aforementioned Brady game in 2000. And perhaps tonight we will see another player with an unknown shock. Another historic moment may be made, as we always get to see unknown players do unknown things. A moment of pure anomaly football. It's meaningless, but in a good way.